Many years ago, a young man with a young family was beginning his journey to buy a brand new home for the first time. After many weeks of searching for a home, going to visit house after house after house, trying to fulfill the needs of what was needed in order for the family to be able to grow, this young man finally found a house that he believed his family would love and enjoy. And so the house was purchased. But upon purchasing the house, he was asked a question by the realtor. What was the overwhelming thing that sold you on the house? And to the realtor's surprise, the young man responded and said that it was the grapefruit tree in the backyard that really was the key, that won me over, that tipped the scale. Looking perplexed, the owner of the real estate agent was like, oh, so the grapefruit tree is what put you over the top? Like, yes, it was the cherry on top. And when the previous owner gave us that bag of grapefruit, we delighted in its fruit, and it won us over. So the family moved into the home. They enjoyed putting their furniture in, making the home their own, painting the walls, putting up pictures, making it their first home. And every so often, every week, the young man would go out into his backyard and he would delight in his grapefruit tree and consume many of the fruits of this tree that was growing in his yard and producing fruit. He would come home and visit his mother and his brothers and sisters, and always bringing a bag of this delicious grapefruit. Year after year, he continued to enjoy the fruit. But then he moved away from the home for a while. Rented the home out. But after a few years, the family returned. And when he returned, he was excited because once again, he would enjoy the fruit of the grapefruit tree in the backyard. Now, since he had been gone for a while, he looked and noticed that the tree wasn't producing as much fruit as it had been before. And so he began to nurture the fruit, began to spray the tree and ensure that different animals and bugs are not eating away at the branches and the leaves of the grapefruit tree. He looked at the big oak tree in front of it and he made sure that he trimmed it down after watching the sun go through the sky and noticing that in the southern part of the sky, he said, I got to get up there with my chainsaw and cut down these limbs and trim these limbs so that my grapefruit tree can get all the sunlight that is required. He made sure that the tree was taken care of, that the ground was taken care of, spreading fertilizer and other Miracle Grow products in order for it to grow. But year after year, the fruit became less and less. The young man was perplexed and wondering, how is it that my tree is not producing as much as it used to when I first bought this home? I mean, it was the main reason that tipped the scale compared to other homes as to why this home was purchased. But yet now my tree is not producing as much. So perplexed one day while working on the tree, the young man is putting fertilizers in around the base of the tree, and when he pressed onto on the base of the tree, his fingers went through the root, and out poured out many carpenter ants. Shaking them off, the young man was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And so he called the tree service and he said, my grapefruit tree, I don't understand. There are carpenter ants in my tree. How do I get rid of them? And they told him, well, you would have to call an exterminator, but it won't help you. It won't help you. And he asked, like, why? Why would this not help me? And he said, look, you have to understand that these carpenter ants for years have been living in the roots of your tree. The deep roots of your tree are eaten away. That at some point your tree will no longer produce fruit. You've seen the decline, but all the while the carpenter ants had been eating the root of the tree. I'm sad to say that in a few years you will have to dig up this tree and then treat that ground for carpenter ants. So a few years go by, the fruit is less and less, and it finally gets to a season where the tree produced no more fruit. And so the tree was dug up and destroyed, filled with carpenter ants, all up through the root of the tree, up through the stump of the tree to the main part, just touching the branches. The carpenter ants had eaten up the tree, and the tree produced no fruit. Because when the young man first bought the house, he did not know to check the roots of the tree that produced so much fruit. As he saw problems, he did not know to treat the roots of the tree that produced so much fruit. This has been Story Time with an Alchemist. This is a true story, because this is the story of when I bought my first house in Florida. And yes, the grapefruit tree was the cherry on top that made me want that house more than the other homes. I did not know that living in Florida, that carpenter ants would be so deep in the ground, that they would eat away at your trees and eat away at the root, and for years you wouldn't know. The house was treated, and the area was treated for termites, but never did I think to maintain treatment of carpenter ants, because they come and they go. You destroy a carpenter ant or any other ant's home, and other ants will eventually move in. So it's a constant effort, a constant treatment. I did not know these things in buying my first home. As I saw the roots of the tree begin to produce less fruit, I did not know to first check the roots of the tree. What I learned from this, and what I want you guys to learn from this, is that oftentimes the fruit that we produce are from the roots that we have deep within us. That the habits that we have, the way our life is now, is based on the deeper roots, the deeper habits that we have. And until we correct these, then we will not see more fruit being produced. Until we correct these, we will actually see our fruitfulness decline. This goes much deeper than just you. It reminded me of the first time I rented a place to live when I was a young man. The first time I got a place, in my brain, I thought you just go get a place that you pay the first month rent, and you call the electric company, everybody, and they just start charging you, and a month later they give you your first bill. The first time when I called them and they said, you have a security deposit and the first month rent and last month rent, the utilities you had, the security deposit, I had no idea. Why? Not because of my own lack, but because I was never taught how to manage money and how to get a house. And when I look at the root of it, it's not something that I learned from my mom. It's not something I learned from my dad. It's not something that they had learned prior as well. It's something they had to learn on their own. Sometimes our roots, our habits come from generation and generation on back. And I know people say we're going to break a generational curse. But let's look at the reality of it. It's not a curse. It's generational habits that we pick up. Our eating habits today may not be based on how you decided to start eating when you were 20, but it's how you ate as a baby, and you've always eaten that way. It is the way that your parents ate, and it is the way your grandparents ate, and so on and so forth. So when you say that diabetes or heart disease runs in my family, what you are really saying is that the habit that creates the environment of heart disease runs in my family. So it is upon us to look deeper, and I know there are two reasons why we don't do it. One, fear. In order to look deep inside yourself, you have to be real with not just your current situation, but what happened in your past. What's going on in your family? What is your heredity? Remember, only 25% of everything about you is genetics. 75% is your environment and the environment you're in. So we have to look deeper and not be afraid to uncover what it is that is there. And the second reason, the effort that it takes. The work. Many people say that they want to change their body, but when they get the simple answer of what is needed in order to lose weight, what is needed in order to build muscle, what is needed in order to take better care of their skin, better care of their general health, it's such a difference, such a change from what they've been doing, that the work, the amount of work necessary, the fact that you got to change it, the fact that you can't keep doing what you've been doing to get a different result. They say that it's too much work. They say that it doesn't take all that. They say that that's not what I want to do. Where here's the thing about changing habits. Changing habits, whether they're generational or if it's something that you picked up over time, it doesn't matter what you want to do. If you desire to see a true change, then it's what you must do. It's what you have to do. Because what you want to do is to maintain the same lifestyle, but yet get a different result. Many people call that insanity. I just call it plain batshit crazy. Because unless you change drastically, make up your mind that this is what it must be, then the life you have now is the life you will continue to get. If you want to change your body, change the way you eat, change the way you move. If you want to change your wealth, change the way you make money, change the way you spend money, change the way you invest money. It cannot be an easy transition. If it was easy, everybody would do it, but everybody's not doing it. So if you truly want to separate yourself from the herd, truly want to not be part of the sheep, truly want to be the shepherd, be the leader, be the one that changes everything in your family, then you have to make a decision to do it differently. And you have to go to the root. You have to go to where it came from. You have to solve that root issue. Lastly, I will say this. Many therapists, many psychologists, many of those who have letters after and before their name, they simply went to a school and learned how to regurgitate. But the most famous person, the person who can line up the most people and say, I have helped all these people, are the ones who do not have those letters. Jim Rohn never had those letters. Tony Robbins never had those letters. Les Brown has never had those letters. Mother Teresa never had those letters. You understand that people who have never had those letters, but they have recognized to dig deep to find the root cause of a problem, are the ones who are the most helpful. This is not to say that people who have those letters don't do it. But sometimes when you're shackled by what the psychological heads of a state or the psychological heads of a country say, when you're shackled by their matrix, by their metrics, then that inhibits you from being able to think deeper, to go further, to be able to say that, well, the reason why a person may not want to achieve this goal may have something that to deal with their heredity of habits that they've learned from generation to generation. Not, oh, and you smoke because of this reason. No, maybe you smoke because you learned it from all your forefathers. Maybe you smoke because you experienced a traumatic event. Maybe you smoke because you wanted to fit in. Why did you want to fit in? Why did you feel like you were outside? Digging deeper. You have to be willing to dig deep inside yourself in order to change root issues, in order to break the generational curse. So this has been Storytime with an Alchemist. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is your Coach Renz. Y'all have a great day. Remember that you got to free yourself to be yourself. Why? Because your greatness is non-negotiable, and you can break all habits if you are willing to dig deep and do the work. Make a decision today that you are going to dig deep and do the work, and then the rest of your life will be the results of that decision. I believe in you. I know that you can do it. I know that it is within you, because you are far greater than anything that anybody has ever tried to shackle you with. You are your own answer. So y'all have a great day. Remember again, free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness again is non-negotiable.